Yeah, the summer makes it real difficult, doesn't it? Just to get out and do things. You want to do something else. That's kind of where they got us to. And this is the ongoing scenario. They know us better than ourselves. They know we would rather do the fun things in life, and then they put the nasty stuff on us, and we tend to want to look away from it. And yet we were put into a prison where the republic was only kept if we would keep it, and that needed an educated masses, which apparently pretty quickly wasn't educated. And more into where we see ourselves today, where we're not only not educated, but we're being imposed biologically not to be able to be capable. And this is a totally different type of a matter. This will be, for those of yous on the past cast, recast, or prodcast, BTW RLM 224. I hope I have that right. I don't know how I keep that number tracking, but it should be what it is. You go ahead and you put that number, that code in, and you should be able to find the content such that you might want to go look at it in the future when I get it posted. I want to make, as the broadcast goes on and I get through, I talk, and I get to the close of the broadcast, I want to thank everybody, and I just so fast, everything's happening, I just get a little notice by a player head starting up, and I only have a few seconds to close the broadcast, and I tend to not think of some people. I wanted to just thank people again that contribute to allow us to get the message out to everybody, and get it, if I can say promoted, get it out there. Vince Easley has been doing a fantastic help to post the YouTube site account and go to SoundCloud from the Spreaker. And he also has gotten the help from Alan Stridham out of South Africa, and which does the thumbnail pictures for those. So I want to thank both of those guys for helping out. Again, it's all part of a concerted effort. I appreciate the help to get this stuff out. I don't have much of a mind about it, and nor really the time. So that's a great aid to all of you all that are listening to find it there. And the Spreaker's there because of Grammy Mary, and she does a broadcast, Rocket Chair, 3 times a week or so, at RLM.reallibertymedia.com. I think it's about 3 or so o'clock, 4 o'clock, who knows what it is. The world is around and the hours go on. You'll find it late in the afternoon, somewhere around 4, I think, Eastern or so. If not, Mountain. And so check her out. And again, she does that I understand, does a donation to keep the Spreaker account, which is what that seems to be a pretty big focus for us passing out the files to other places. Then Grimner again, as he offers the Real Liberty Media Network and our archives that you go in where the broadcaster is. So all y'all there, really do appreciate that you're there and contributing to help get this word out. And somebody, as I told you, I made a Minds.com account here a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't sure how much I was going to get into that. Again, just the time constraint. Well, this week I decided to kind of look at that a little bit more, because I also have a BitChute account now, and BitChute just started taking channels that you can upload. So Behind the Woodshed is the BitChute account to start with here. And I think we found a problem with it last night. So it was playing, the one archive from last week I posted to there was playing fine up until last night. I haven't gone back today. Had a lot of problems this morning starting up. In fact, if I go down, I may actually go down if I have a power drop, because my APC died. So I'm running on straight power without a power backup. So if that happens, be patient. I'll try and get us back on and hope it won't take out the hard drive if it does fail. BitChute now has the Behind the Woodshed. That was playing up until last night. I have to go back and check that. I went over to Minds.com and I uploaded there this week. And I'm not really social media savvy. I really don't even know what that's about. And I tried to put a comment into a place, and it got lost. It kind of got lost into the website's digital ether. And I didn't know if it went in or it didn't, and so I went looking to see whether it went in, and I didn't know how to find on Minds.com. To me, it's not real easy to find certain things. The search I started to find was okay. Well, I searched finally. I said, well, if I put in something into the website and the database has that, I should be able to find my own comment. And so I typed in Behind the Woodshed. And I did a search. And I'm going through all this setup because I want to thank you, whoever you are, who has the account on Minds.com. and any of you all else that are doing the same thing that I don't even know about. But someone has the account on Minds.com, and it's called I've Been Here to 2017. I want to thank you for what you've been doing all this time. I wasn't even on Minds.com. You have been, and been reposting the broadcast. And I want to thank you for that, and I'm astonished at the amount of coverage you get. It's the kind of coverage I was hoping for in other places. So whatever you're doing, thank you very much. Keep it up. I want to know your secret, and I'll just tell you, folks, if the numbers I'm seeing there are anything, Minds.com is some place to be, and there's a lot of coverage there. Whether or not the clicks mean anything, I don't know. Whether or not there's actually a problem. The account holder I've Been Here 2017 apparently believes that the postings for my broadcast are being interfered with, even there. In other words, you look and you got thousands, literally thousands of views, and only one, if one, response is apparently not normal in a social media circuit. And I'm aghast at it. What is this social media that no one responds? No one actually interacts. It looks to me like another setup, is another point. But again, I just wanted to thank all of you all that I don't know about promoting the broadcast apparently as you have, and the one that I have found out on my own without being knowing about it. I've Been Here 2017. I really do thank you for what you've done. If the numbers I see are there, that's the numbers I've been hoping is out there. And the only thing I'm hoping about is that's causing all y'all to really think about what we're up against and eventually find your place, find the wrong you need to make right, and move along with it with the suggestions I make regarding your whatever effort it is. And sometimes a lot of this is being attacked by the government. And that's really not the good one, but because, they supposedly have the power, but I've shown you that they really don't. In fact, at the mining district meeting here this last Friday, we ended up, I didn't know I was going to talk a little bit about it, but we talked about jurisdictional challenges, how they're done, how people fail. It's really subtle what the serpents have to trap you, and you trap yourself by your own mouth. It's really fascinating. They give you the opportunity to speak when you shouldn't, and then you speak and you say the wrong thing. As I said, it's knowledge not applied properly gets you really nowhere. In fact, it can get you in trouble. And as it won't matter to anybody else, I just noticed at the RLM chat I was kicked out, and I'm probably not put back in, so I won't see anything going on there now. And I don't know how to really move that on yet. Let me check something. No, I'm not going to be able to do too much waste of time to move all this on through. But this is good. Today is an odd day. I'll just tell you that. Lots of little things going on that ought not be going on, and getting me up to here. So I'm glad that I'm even getting out. I see the encoders are running. I don't have any feedback, but at any rate, technical difficulties, folks. They all come up. Maybe my voice goes silent for other reasons, but that's what I'm kind of telling you. You got to get the information and get it and start accounting for what you know and actually put it in practice. Because if you don't, my voice may be gone, and then I won't be around to try and fill in the blanks I can't tell you during the broadcast. This is really a critical subtlety. Lots of people think they know what's happening, and they really don't know the system they're up against. It's not really about right or wrong, or who's right or wrong. There's a thing you're going to walk up against, and if you don't address it right, you're not going to even know how they done you in. It's fascinating. I'm fascinated at that. People don't even know how they were taken advantage of. And it's clear to me when I'm listening to like a hearing. Here, the only distinction I can make, and it was told to me this week, a couple days ago, was that I've read so much. And I said, yeah, read the black and white, folks. They tell you everything. They show you the tricks if you just read. They tell you how they're going to take you down, and you just put that in your bag of law, bag of tricks, and bag of awareness, and then you move against it. And as I told one of the guys I was talking with, particular to his problem, I said, don't tell them all you know. Just acknowledge that it's there and move around it. Just do the thing it takes to avoid their trap. And so, I mean, I just don't even know what more to say until you get into your own problem. This is part of the way they set up the prison around you. Until you get involved and do it earnestly and really find the help that can help you, They just stretch this thing out against you for so long, and it just looks, and it is, it's just an oppression. It's just an oppression, and I don't know what else to say against it. You just have to understand it. And I pause, I'm thinking, I know people want to kind of put that away. They don't want to think about that, or they think they know. And I'm suggesting to you strongly, again, you do not know. What you don't know is the procedures by which they destroy you. And unless you've dealt with it, you won't have a clue. And that's what I try to show you and talk to, utilizing this so-called news, what I call the notice to us, this media, no matter if it's alternative or not. We can go through all of it. My mind cuts through. I see the transparent. I see what the devil does, if you will. And the devil is in the details. And I somehow see, I don't know all of it. In fact, we were talking before, someone was talking about, I don't even know the subject matter. It kind of goes through my mind and out when I can't deal with it. And I just mentioned, that's not an expertise that I have to know. I have to go research about it. And so I may give a suggestion procedurally, but I won't give you a suggestion on exactly what it looks like. The requirements may be specific to any particular thing. That's my problem on this broadcast. I can't speak to any one of you. I've got to speak to all of you in general. And so it's not as poignant as I could get when I'm sitting down with someone and showing you in your own context, by your own concern, the terrain, essentially. And that's the missing part in all this. And I don't know how many people click and view but don't move on. I don't know that anybody listens past 2 minutes, 3, 5, 10 minutes, whatever it is. I don't know how many people will continue to listen. And I know not many people appear to be actually doing what they need to be doing. And I'm suggesting to you that the evidence is in the notice, that that time that you'll be able to be functional against this tyranny and oppression is fast coming to the place where they're going to take it away from you. And I don't know if you're really hearing what I'm saying about this technology. These people are just evil. To me, they're just evil scientists. It's neat stuff, but they're evil scientists to not consider ahead of the time what they're doing, but that you see that they are considering ahead of time. What they consider is the baser, the fallen nature of us. As I've been pointing out, our nation fell for a military consequence over and over. An occupier. You think occupation is what you do for a living? No, this is international law occupation. And that's what we live under and by and through. And then it's terrorists. And I say terrorists in not the one that's been, the definition that's been created for you, which doesn't actually exist. The terrorism is, remember, the fundamental word terrorism's definition is a system of government that rules by fear, intimidation, and dread. And so this system of government that we see around the world apparently has been infiltrated by the occupiers that built now the caucustocracy, which are now taking and putting all these, what everyone says, FRNs are not real money, but that system doesn't care because that system is a bunch of not real entities. And they use their currency. They trust in that. And that's what you started. International law is all about confidence and trust. And we look at the distinction between this inert government and the people, and we say, well, there's a trust obligation. And if that's breached, there's supposed to be a remedy. And so we've lost our remedy. And we've lost the knowledge about it. And I come along and try to say, hey, it's here. It's just that you're going to have to know about it, what it is, and you're going to have to not be talked out of it. One of the tricks that I've been analyzing in a couple of cases, it's a standard procedure for these criminals in offices that decide your property regarding jurisdiction is when you are doing a proper challenge, you have to know it's not that you don't speak, it's that you have to speak the correct things and then know when to shut up. In other words, you know by what your action was, you had the burden to impose a defense or an offense, and you did so by creating a remedy offense that flipped the burden back. And once that's done, you have to shut up. And once you've done that, and you know how to do that, and you shut up, the other side, which is that system, has to go from the record to show how it has the jurisdiction to continue. If it gets you to speak about the things of your lawsuit, or the suit against you, not yours, but the one coming against you, you will lose. That fast. You spoke to the merits. If you'd even had the basic readings of court cases regarding these types of issues, you'd know that. A lot of people don't want to just find these cases and read them. It's not that I like reading cases. I'm looking at the playbook. All these cases you've ever seen are all the plans on how they're going to go out and go around and do their agenda. Some of them turn out right, and a lot of them seem to turn out wrong, even in the last 50 or 60 years. And there's not very many people that can see the distinction. Can find, again, when I listen to an audio record of a proceeding, my mind is thinking in, what should I say, my mind's thinking in process, procedure. Qualifying if all the little things that are supposed to be done have been done. And if there's a break in that chain, that's where that's what you have to identify. And so, I've been trying to show you that that's what you're identifying all the time. When we're talking in court cases and things, you're being sued in a court or administrative proceeding in a code enforcement thing, all that pseudo, false court issues, that's the more formal side. But when someone comes against you, let's say it's a government in a tax case, let's say your property tax, and you don't know that you're supposed to respond, the burden's on you to respond if you don't like it, and they presume, these presumptions kill you, they presume that you agree, you're okay with it. If you're quiet, ignorance is no excuse of that. In fact, that's what I was talking about Friday. These notices are telling you, this is the notice giving you the opportunity to respond if you don't think that the property was taxed properly. Well, those of you that are into your patents and understand this, understand the underlying grant property evidence that I talk about, that is a form of, in fact, it is the prevailing evidence against the authority that's trying to extort or coerce you out of your money, rights, or property. And even the money that they think that they're charging you, whatever it is, your livelihood, it came from you, your life somewhere. That's really all I talk about here on this broadcast, regardless of where I go around in the world to show you. But lately, and this system is supported by what I can find in many issues, in many ways. I can prove it out myself. I've explained a lot of places you can do it too, and I want you to. Because until you do, you'll just think I'm an opinion. You just think, I'm beyond opinion, folks. So I keep saying in the Twitter, the hashtag, beyond opinion. You just go read it for yourself. It's there. It's a function. It's happening. And you knows them when you sees them. That's a definition. You knows them when you sees them is the law. And they're working on an occupier's presumption and assuming you won't act against it. And you won't, and you don't. You should, but you don't. And so the whole system starts to turn into something that is what the underlying command is, which is military. And why I've kind of shown you over these years, and heavily in the last few weeks, as the news comes to tell you, the technology is their work, there's technology working, there's things going on, things they denied in the 90s, in the 80s, and the 90s, things that are now being admitted they can do. That if they admitted they could do them back in the 80s and 90s, they've been doing it, and they're just letting us to know. And I'm kind of demarcating this for you all to say that means that your future generations that they speak about will be compliant. And you won't, and my point to you here is your future, will not be able to resist. You'll not have the capacity. As we find continuing again, and then hopefully maybe we'll move on from this, maybe not, this military consequence they're letting us know from last week and the week before, talking about them being able to affect your mind, taking away your memory, enhancing memory, while they claim they don't affect memory at all. Really ridiculous dualities, the art of the Hegelian dialectic, the controlled dissonance that they throw in that you don't question. Even the most critically mind is almost unable to really come to terms with it. In other words, if I can be considered that I've had a critical mind on the things I've looked at, the critical mind takes a while to work out what the meaning of all this does. Sometimes it comes as an inspiration. It just shoots in your mind. Sometimes you have to work it out, which means that they're dealing in some very, very foundational things against you. And if you're not appreciating these subtleties, then you're missing a whole lot. I don't care how much you think you know. how much your verse read and all the facts of the history. You don't have a clue. All that stuff has been set up to set you up. And it takes a little bit of work. It actually takes quite a bit. But once you get it, all of a sudden you see it, you can start avoiding the landmines. And I don't know, and I'm disappointed. I don't see enough people desiring to avoid those landmines. It sounds like that people want to, and it sounds like you say you are, but as I understand the actual functioning, the processes that go on, absolutely not. And it's amazing to me how many people think they'll know stuff, and then I'll have a discussion with them, and we find out, well, they had at least a misconception. And that's as bad as a bad decision. You're acting on what you thought you know that wasn't so. No, there's not a bear trap there. Step, fall in, stabbed, punji sticks. Oh, that wasn't a good decision, was it? Based on false information. Pretty simple. And your karma comes quick at that point. You find out how fast that dog could get run down in the road. Your dogma getting run over by your karma. Yeah. Wow. That's just, to me, is really just not being really aware. And it's not that you have to be aware in all kinds of things, but you certainly should be aware in the things where you is in the time used there. And so let's move on a little bit more here. These aggressive super soldiers, they're going to make them a citizen near you. People are going to be so, I think, well, they're not going to know it is the interesting thing. We can see it now. So-called citizens will be citizen soldiers. You'll be the super soldier and don't even know you are the one they've been planning. You are the one that they've created, and you don't even know that. And that's my problem for you all. We aren't there yet, but we're seeing it. And the next generations, the future generations, will be towing the globalists' condition. Again, people that don't know property are probably our property. Pretty simple. A brain implant turns loser mice into aggressive fighters. By stimulating one region of the brain, scientists create mouse super soldiers. And if you don't think that little phone you carry around, or that little real ID, the powered one, the one that can trade power and repower, and what I told you yesterday or last weekend about the multiple input frequencies that come in through and into your brain, and that they are learning how to stimulate that. They already know. I'm telling you, I believe, I know, I've seen it myself. What I didn't add, and I found out I re-listened to critique the broadcast, I forgot to tell you, I was telling you about a three-dimensional inputs into a two-dimensional frame, and I told you about a hologram, but then I forgot, and I hope some of you picked it up, and if you did, great, fantastic. Your mind is working in this area, and I think it's important just to start to flesh all that out. That I forgot to mention to you that your brain's not a two-dimensional frame. Your brain is at least a three-dimensional frame. And so, watch out about the hologram. Watch out that that you might think that it seems sci-fi, that they can't actually do what I was telling you is there to look like they're doing, but now they also can tell you they can take a loser, they can take the worst loser in my listenership, and they can make you an aggressive fighter. Now think about that. You can be made a super soldier, but you can't be made into the best that you could be to help everyone. And this is the problem of having the caucustocracy run things. That's where they go to the fallen nature. And so for me, this is this little article here is really just the notice of a bunch of fallen things that we in the future will not be able to be resistant to, given we also have been told that they change our DNA with our environment, that epigenetic changing, that they are now interested to understand how to make you aggressive. And they can do it at a distance. They don't need the wires, as I told you last week. Your microwave beams, the so-called EMF weapons that are now on the missiles that are made, that are really just microwave beams of energy that are pointed at systems that cannot overcome the amount of energy hitting them. Their ground systems are not comprehensive enough to stop it. You can blow out systems with it, but it's not an EMF like you might think as a radiating power outwards from a central core 360-degree sphere. No, we're not powerful enough yet to figure that part out. So we put it in a beam and then we can take you out. Well, they put you in a beam, if they can put apparently 3 or so channels of frequencies into it, they can stimulate you into some aggressive super soldier. It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie about making super soldiers. Scientists have turned shy, low-ranking mice into aggressive fighters who almost always win in dominance competitions. And they did it by stimulating a part of the mouse brain that controls effortful behavior. Effortful behavior. It's all about behavior control, effortful. So I want to put out something here, folks. They turn this, what they call aggressive. If you read the report and story, you look and read it. I think you should. All it took to make something considered to be aggressive was something who was some being that became effortful. In other words, you never gave up. You just kept pushing. It doesn't matter how big the other guy was. You went for the object of your desire. And they were able to stimulate mice with the most meek attitudes to become those that just pushed beyond. And so I took a little bit of power, if you will, for us all. That our problem is that we're not effortful. You don't have to call it aggressive. They called it aggressive. But what does all that mean? Is that I've been telling you, you need to do. You need to get out, find the wrong you need to make right, and make it make the wrong that you need to make right, and make it so. Do, folks. Become effortful. Now, you have that determination you can do in yourself, obviously. They can stimulate that factor in you, apparently. And so we have in us the capacity to go beyond what we even think we can do ourselves. The mice that are not effortful seem to get run around by the ones that are more effortful. Now, the problem we see here is this is possibly going to be non-consensual. At the point that you're a chosen soldier, you've chosen yourself to be a soldier, it's not non-consenting. Those of you in the public who use your phones and being programmed by all this radiation and the new 5Gs coming, I don't know I haven't even looked at all that. This is just higher power, more capacity coming in. They have all these different point sources of frequency generation. They might be able to stimulate effortful behavior. But that's already in you, which means you're not running to your own capacity. And so I'm just wondering if that, I've looked at it a long time ago in the past, and I said, well, how do you defeat these people that can do things to you that you don't know about? Well, if you're running at 100%, you have determined 100% of a capacity you have. Whatever they stimulate isn't enough of a percentage more than you're already controlling at 100%. So one of the observations I made was that, well, I just have to be fully functioning. I have to raise my level of effort up. I've got to raise my level of mind use. I have to be cognizant of the limitations, be honest about that. And when I'm starting to pay attention to all that, I can also pay attention to changes that come, whether or not it's artificially stimulated or maybe even naturally. And so I have to become more aware of me and this thing. And in this report says we have to become effortful. And we can destroy any dominance. Now, if we choose what the effort is, I believe that will overcome any trying to hijack that, because you're using it. Only the mice that were not using it seem to have an increase. It didn't allow for a dominant one to be more dominant. And so I think there's a couple of lessons here, and I think one of them is that you can be changed by just frequencies. And so you all keep, without consideration, keep going using all these frequency generating devices without thought about it. And you can see in the future if it's not already happening. And I don't know what kind of tests. You see all these things going on in the news. We're told about it. We don't know someone sitting back and watching. All of a sudden in one area, they've now had an experiment of frequency controls, and all of a sudden there's an outbreak of burglaries. There's an outbreak of murders. There's an outbreak of, maybe it's coinciding, they make it coincide with the moon, so it looks like a bunch of people got crazy. And yet they're actually doing that, and it's a lab experiment, all your rats. And so this has been, we understand that this type of testing has been going on against people for many decades. The government in search of a military consequence response in defense or offense is not bashful to test you all. We've got plenty of evidence of that. And I mean not soldiers. I mean societies like San Francisco. I think it was in 53. That big TV antenna they had up there was a special transformer, amplifier transformer that was a part one, or well, part two, I suppose, of a binary weapon against the population, which was seeded in the clouds and dropped on people and was activated by the Class B transmitter, which that tower was. Most powerful transmitter on the West Coast, I think, at the time. And they were able to test it. They could make a binary weapon that way. They could just spray some stuff on you that's not activated. It goes in your system, and then they activate it by a frequency. Now we're being told all they do is put 3 or 4 frequencies in you, and they can alter you. And I just wonder about people that think they know so much. I don't get that. This is a real thing in my mind. Like I said, I was always questioning, is it science fiction? Is it science fiction? Well, when it starts to touch things I've seen in real time in my life experience, I think there's some credibility, puts a credibility in me about it. When I can take that technology and apply it in other ways, which I have, and it does, it makes things change. Just leave it right there. That's just like a secondary witness. 2 witnesses in law make a fact, folks. So we're not talking, I don't think I'm talking conjecturally, and I think we're seeing a way out as well as the way attack, and we see our advance. If we become effortful in the things of substance, not the things of nothingness, if you will, they're just irrelevant things. I don't think that the other side, if it is, can actually affect you. And to me, that's a pretty powerful point to understand. And so what does that mean, too, if you find yourself being affected, but you have to turn more energy into that point that's being controlled in you? And so we may see how we're wired and how we're being attacked. And to me, I think that's exactly what's going on, and I think that's a big insight for people. Once you have it, you start to realize you have a large measure of control over outside influences, and you have a way to monitor it, and that's our protection. If you're absent, or you lie to yourself about how aware you are, or you're not honest about that you don't actually know, and then don't use that as an excuse, then they make, ignorance is like an excuse. When you don't go to there, and you turn it around the other way, then you become effective. And I don't think that there's as much interference that can happen against you. And again, as we apply that theory back into, if it is a theory and not actual fact, I think it's actual fact, because we then turn around and apply that into how we respond, let's say the more formal paper-wise type things in the way this whole governmental thing is set up. We do the very same thing there. And we find that there's no control that can be put on us until the other side, which we're only there because we're witnessing a crime. When the other side stops being the criminal, they can't afford. They've learned, those that tried to challenge us. When we're sitting in the law, and when a lot of people want to challenge this, what's the law? Well, there's a law, and you assert it when it's the right law, when it's the good law, when it helps people out when it's applied, and protects people when it's applied, and not let them get hurt. And when they get hurt and it's not applied, and you see that that's why the law is there, that's the law for us in our social interactions. When we assert the law and the witness of a crime, those people either come into tow with what was helping everybody, or else they continue to be the criminal and can be outed. There's no magical force they can put on you to change your witness, your focus, because you've raised yourself up high enough that their influence is irrelevant. Their negative effort on you, whatever the side collateral attacks they bring to you, are of no measure. There's literally no measure. This level, this effortful behavior you install in yourself against the wrong you need to make right becomes the shield. So this little story seemed like a little and nothing and almost sci-fi, and they talk about it that way, but to me it was a lot of lesson right in here, and I'd like to have you read it. You can find that yourself. That the brain implant turns loser mice into aggressive fighters is the notice of what the military consequence wants and wants to do. I'm suggesting they're going to do it to y'all. They're doing it with all the technology. It's all there. This is not even, to me, it's not even a question. I don't think you need to be a super wit to figure out all this stuff is working and where it's going, and that it is going there. Not that it's not going there. It's gone there, actually. And how have we also seen coming on. They're making it more and more palatable. They'll give you a little bit of benefit to plug in, and you do. Not all of you. You understand, I'm not talking to all of you. And some of you resist on these things and think you've actually done something. I'm going to caution you against that thought too. But, at least when you resist, like this thing coming up I'm going to talk about, it's one less leash they can put on you. But there's others. So don't get so high and mighty about all you think you do and know. We all got our weaknesses here and there, and we all got connected, even myself. Even still having a Yahoo email. I can't find another place I can move over to that I can trust anymore. So here we have the reality. I can only go so much too. So are you going to move to this point where, here, remember, we just talked about implants can turn a loser mouse into an aggressive fighter. That's under someone else's dictate as well, what they thought. They called it an aggression, and what it was effortful. I guess it all depends on the who's looking at your effort. It will depend on whether you were aggressive or not. But we have our social norms and social tools that we can ameliorate anything of aggression into something that's just effort. Putting the effort out of something that you want get done. And there's how you prove that is that no one else has a better idea for what you need, and your need is good. But these implants can change you. And so we see the next story, the Wisconsin company to implant microchips in employees. This is not a new story. I was telling you it's coming. We talked about Switzerland or someplace that those people back there, they get to enter into their business. They get to go to work now because they got this chip. Oh, it's so fast they put it in their hand. It wasn't good enough just to punch a number. Just not even look fast enough. It's even not even fast to get your face, even though it's a tenth of a second. So they're going to go to microchips, and Wisconsin company is about to become Wisconsin. Remember, Wisconsin. Is that where the cheese heads are? It doesn't matter. Wisconsin company is about to become the first in the United States to offer microchip implants to its employees. And they're going to do it, folks. They're going to do it. And you think, how can they do it? Well, they're going to do it. They're given a little perk. Microchip implants. These are these little implants that can have RF ID that can be read by a machine. If you put it close enough, it can actually repower the chip, repower the device, and it'll have its own technology on it. As you know, we're going to nanotechnology, digital controls, digital technology, and you will see that it have their own computers, and they can do all kinds of things in that. Maybe they can even be powered enough to create a tri-frequency that interferes with your effort, because the company wants you to be more effortful, folks. But here's coming. It's the next thing that's inevitably going to happen, and we want to be part of it. Did you hear that? It's the next thing that's inevitably going to happen. I've talked about this inevitability before, and here you are, folks. They just keep pushing it, and it becomes. The company designs software for break room markets that are commonly found in office complexes. Now remember, we had another company called Digital Persona we talked about last week that is also a software company. Well, they got to be running hardware. Okay? And this is inevitable. I keep telling you to watch out for these words. Now, for those of you that say, no, it's not, I'm telling you it is. And because you're just saying, no, it's not, and not working against it or not doing what it needs to take to start shoring up people's education about the problems with this. Notwithstanding, our pets already who have these devices are getting massive growths wherever these devices, these little chips are. They're only a grain of rice, folks. And we have the evidence of their biological harm, but no one kind of points that out. Just as people are able to purchase items at the market using phones, Westby wants to do that same thing using a microchip implanted inside a person's hand. Stop being the person, folks. We'll come up. Well, you're a person because of your status as a slave working for that company, I guess is the way they work that. And they want you to be more effortful. We'll come up, scan the item, he explained, while showing how the process will work at an actual break room market kiosk. All this is just to buy some junk food, folks. We'll hit pay with a credit card, and it's asking to swipe my proximity payment now. I'll hold my hand up, just like my cell phone. and it'll pay for my product. All this is done to buy junk food, and they're gonna get them to do it. They've already got people getting the chip to buy junk food. If you get people to buy junk food and do this, we're done, folks. That's all I can tell you. We're done. We are a done group of people. So, if I got the cheeseheads correct back in Wisconsin, watch out. That's where they started it. They didn't know go right for the weak spot, I guess. Sorry to hear that, but that's in fact what they've done, isn't it? They moved it right on over from Europe to here, pretty quick. And so, you're all wired up, you got your phones, you say you're not going to do it, and they say, well, wait, we need to have you more effortful, so if you don't want to do it, you don't get to work here, because we can't make you more effortful. And because you don't want to be more effortful, we don't think you're working hard enough. You don't plan on working hard enough. We'll go get the next one. I mean, these people are pretty brilliant on how they press you for your needs, and they know there's more people that will follow behind you if you don't, and make you irrelevant to that whole thing. And we aren't smart enough to see that, to get together and say, well, I can't let that happen. If someone just quit because they want to make someone a mouse, put them a rat in their company maze, I better not follow behind. But that's not the reality. And see, they work in reality. They don't work in these utopic ideas. And what is this device then? We've been talking, your phone, all these digital devices, now they got them in your hand. I'm going to suggest to you folks, when you, in the future, you will, when you go to have a baby, women, listen to this, and you get your vaccines and or they give you your medication because the doctor, the certified government doctor, is prescribing you things that you think are helping you and your baby. Well, it's helping them, and you're helping your baby in the way they need to help the baby, which is to be their control unit. Then they are modifying the baby as it's being born. When it gets born, it'll have been epigenetically changed and actually maybe naturally changed inside the womb, DNA, to accept these new digital technologies, which will be, instead of the slap on the butt they used to give, it'll be this little machine that injects this nano circuitry in to be the non-wired neural connector, all in a blink of an eye. And you won't even need these chips, you won't need your phones or nothing else, and you will become part of what? That Internet of Things, right? These chips, all these phones, these things on the walls, the thermostats, the Internet of Things. And guess what we see coming up but a story? Military continues to design war matrix with the Internet of Battlefield Things. Internet of Battlefield Things. We think, then they'll even have a picture. This is in the desert. They got machines, they got robots that show pictures. It's a combined picture. It's just an illusion picture of, we're going to do this out in the desert. The military continues to hone its vision to build a full-scale matrix of smart war that is being branded the Internet of Battlefield Things. Let me stop, folks. What did we call here weeks and months, years ago, when this military consequence, but the American battlefield. Battlefield America, remember? And then I got to thinking when I saw this story, well, they're telling us they're making these Internet of Things, it's all militarized. It's been there before we got there. Now they're telling us it is, and it's the Matrix. The Matrix is not a movie, I've said for years and years since the movie. Since walking out of the movie, watching it, I realized the Matrix is not a movie. Now I know that was sci-fi, or that was a bit embellished, but the principles underneath it are not. And here it is, years later, 2 decades later now almost. The Internet of Battlefield Things. We got Battlefield America, and you have all your digital devices. And the military continues to design this war matrix against you. It dawned on me when I was looking at this, when they showed the desert, the picture, I think you'll see this picture in the desert. How they depict it to keep you thinking it's somewhere else. It's some deserts in Syria. I realized, the Internet of Battlefield Things, the Internet of Things does not exist where there is no Internet. It does not exist in a place where there is no power. It does not exist where the two don't coincide. So the Internet of the battlefield can't be the battlefield out in the middle of the desert. They would go to satellites and portable power between 2 armies or 3 or 4 armies. When they're talking about the battlefield of things and the Internet of Things, they're talking about your house in a place that doesn't lose power or the Internet. The military plans for this. Remember, folks, they were talking about the big metropolises that they were going to have to learn to fight. I talked about this before. But this entire matrix of the Internet, which was developed for the government as a collateral way to have communications, is controlled by the military. And they have made this Internet battlefield of things. And I'm saying this is tailored for places that will never lose power or lose the Internet. Otherwise, they wouldn't have access to this. Like for us, smart's not so intelligent. For them, it's a battle plan. It's a tool. In other words, this information's not for the desert anywhere. They plan on keeping, and this is how this works, they plan on keeping your life normal so that you maintain connection by these infrastructures that are part of the plan. And it is a matrix within the military consequence, is really what caught my mind here. Once I realized what they were saying, the Internet of battlefield of things, and that Internet of Things doesn't exist without functioning societal infrastructure. In other words, they're looking to attack or keep control of your life while you don't know about it. I'm wondering what people think about that. This is not about a destroyed future. This is about an intact future that you are unaware is actually your prison. The Matrix, as they now call it. Week after week, they're telling us that what they consider this thing. And what do we have? The biggest bully in the world, the thug in the world is the United States running this. This is their military scenario. The Internet of battlefield of things is the entirety of the world that's still functioning where this can actually be working. I think this is where my mind goes is why they created, I think it was an executive order that they would, or there was a law that said that this is a high priority, this Internet, the cyber war. This is all tied together. I don't get into all that too much. I just know it, it's all working around. It's all part of this mesh, this matrix battlefield that we are clueless. It's transparent to us. And I think that word came up here in a little bit. We'll find someone actually use the transparency, and you find everyone's all amazed that it didn't work the way they thought transparent was. And I'd looked at it, so you don't know what transparent means today. You don't understand what we're up against, that we're up against the caucusocracy in place, an occupation, and they have the language, and they're telling you what they're trying to do because it's a war scenario. I guess to me this is just another ongoing proof. I'm not all weirded out about it. I'm not, be afraid. No, this is what's happening, folks. This is what's up. They're telling us. They're showing us all how they do it. They just right here. And I wonder why we don't, what I see is a bunch of people yakking about it and no one really making any plans or thoughts. I mean, there's people maybe more brilliant than me about it when they think about it. I don't think about it. I just know it's there. I'm just trying to, toot the horn of it, just here to see the light, folks. Someone's better at this than I am. Once it comes maybe to implementation of what we do, how do we go about it? I mean, the point about Minds.com or BitChute is that moving to an alternative of the censorships doesn't mean that we're outside this matrix of Internet, a battlefield of things, but we have a different set of people that are having control of the switch. The BitChute is supposed to be torrent driven, so it's through the browser peer-to-peer. Now, I'm not quite sure how that all works, and I'm not sure maybe it doesn't work because I didn't get my broadcast, couldn't hear it. We had a problem with it last night. Someone made a comment that they couldn't get it on BitChute, but we'll work that out. First time up. Might be me. I don't know. But it's just there's somebody else making the decision on the switch on what their standard will be for cutting you out. It's still part of this Internet of Things. We have to work with inside this war matrix as well, and they've told us now this is the battlefield. It wasn't just the Internet of Things like Donald Rumsfeld was joking about, and he wasn't joking. He was telling you something. It's actually the Internet of battlefield things. It's where you live, where there is infrastructure, power, phones, Internet, all that. It's not a place that's destroyed. It's not Homs. It's not Aleppo. It's not the desert. This is where you live. They have a prison, a war prison around you, and I don't know that anybody sees it except they're grumbling about how it's just not working for them. They're planning, utilizing all this technology. Silent weapons or quiet wars again, over and over. We wonder, there's always a question made, even if you think you have the idea, even like myself, I believe I picked this up for myself, and I'm not saying I'm the only one, lots of you all did. But we know who's pulling the strings over there in Syria. They depict the desert with this internet of battlefield things, and they depict the desert, and that gets your mind to think elsewise it's not you. And I said, but that Syria, that desert is going to be the mirror reflecting you at home. They're doing it to you at home, folks. What they're doing over there and what you see physically is what they're doing to you transparently here at home. Wherever your home is, that's wherever in Europe, everywhere. Everywhere there's a societal structure and modernity, I guess. Power, internet, phones, that thing, that your connection to it. Who's running? Who's pulling the strings? What it is? We identify things. Those of us looking at it have our proofs. The major population has its doubts, and then this little story pops up on who's running the show. Again, I want to make sure that you continue this connection between the Middle East being the mirror for the United States. This is what I've been trying to convey. I say it. I don't know how many people appreciate that and hold that really focused on what they're doing, because. Well, I don't know about your because it will happen when you come to fruition with the complete awareness on how to tie this all together, and where that might give you an idea on where you can start. But who are these ones that continue to plan, and what's this dynamic about not knowing, and really what's the truth about who's actually causing all this? Comes out this week, the military internet of battlefield things becomes the whole world when we go to satellites as well. It becomes the globalist control. Whatever methods and ways they lie about how they're doing it, the truth has been coming out. The internet is a problem for these guys, as we've been told. I think, what was it, Rumsfeld said that, and Big News Brzezinski said, this internet is really a trouble for us, because we can get to stuff pretty quick anymore. Breaking, who is, folks. I don't know how many broadcasts I've been on record. Is us, right? We've had the proof. We know it. We've run it down. It's our allies, whatever that is, It's this caucusocracy in Washington, D.C., that little island, jurisdictional island, the district. Breaking, Trump orders the CIA to halt all financial military aid for rebels in Syria, was a breaking news article that caught my mind. Trump orders the CIA to halt all financial military aid for rebels in Syria when they were not claiming the United States was doing anything with that. It ends up being a CIA plan, and it ends up being that there's a United States government money being paid to do this. The United States is using the rebels as their proxy mercenaries, as we have said behind the Woodshed and other places. The CIA has been doing this. Now, I don't know if I believe that story when it came out, because there was no confirmation, and there was agreed that no, the White House wouldn't confirm it. But I want you to consider this, just a headline here. Trump orders the CIA to halt all financial military aid for rebels in Syria. If you've never understood that the United States has caused the destruction and the death of everybody in the Middle East with its interferences, and you thought it was just us being the good guy, I want you to re-listen to this. Trump orders the CIA to halt all financial and military aid for rebels in Syria. We were doing it. We, the United States, this caucusocracy, is murdering people. Denied up until this story that Trump orders the CIA to halt all financial military aid to rebels in Syria. You think that's going to happen? You think they're going to, well, we'll do that, we'll do something else? Sure they are. The point is, it comes out here. This was, to me, I just want to start strangling people in the caucusocracy. I want you to fully think about what that statement is. I don't even have the words to express how, what this explains to us. How criminal this caucusocracy in the United States government is. And we didn't get confirmation by the White House, but a few days later, U.S. Special Operations Chief confirms end of CIA support for anti-Assad forces in Syria. Folks, that includes ISIS as well, right? Not just the rebels. And we can go through the lineage. We can remember the United States CIA had given Mujahideen the arms to fight the Russians, which now the Mujahideen turned to Taliban and then turned into this ISIS. I think the Mujahideen operation was the only successful CIA operation where they've done this repeatedly through history against other peoples. So it's a failed plan. But we have confirmation now by the U.S. Special Forces operations. The problem with this is that that's a cover now to say, well, we're not actually doing any of it. The problem is that we also see that the CIA was, in fact, trying to overthrow Assad. The United States is, in fact, the terrorist. They are the ones that are trying to overthrow democratically elected regimes, and I say democratically not knowing exactly what their whole system is. They do have the vote. I guess if we can leave democratic process to the populace vote, let's leave it right there, then I can say that. So there's a confirmation that the CIA was supporting the anti-Assad forces in Syria, folks. It is us. Is the rebels, the mercenaries. CIA chief. Was going to be the CIA chief. I'll move it over here one little step. So what was these payments that was going to end support? We were told it was just armament. Well, Julian Assange on Twitter pops up with a paper image. You can see it. I'll have the link. Financial Times said CIA not only armed Syrian rebels, in quotes, it is paying their monthly salaries. You got to go down to the bottom of the picture and see they were paying their salaries. This wasn't just armaments. This was an all-out mercenary attack against an innocent, sovereign, if we can say that anymore, country. I guess the point, you've heard me say this over and over, the United States is a war criminal. The United States is a terrorist. I don't like saying that, but that's what's going on. And it's outside of really the mass of the people to really do much until the mass of the people pull together to shut it down. The United States is paying these people to go attack other people and kill them, behead them, whatever they do for the effect, the shock and awe. Real people are being hurt, killed, maimed, destroyed over this intercession, this criminal intercession. This is us, folks. I don't even know what to say about how. What? Evil. It's the only word that comes to my mind, folks. Am I losing? People know this, so they're tuning away? Folks, do you understand what we're being told here? Do you understand how this is reflecting on the world? If you will, in our name, we are killing and murdering and maiming and abusing, and who knows all what we're doing as a nation. And so see, Julian Assange pops out with a Financial Times tweet. We know Julian Assange is the editor of WikiLeaks, and the CIA chief comes out to say WikiLeaks will take down America any way they can. CIA Director Mike Pompeo remains inconsolably hostile toward whistleblower organization WikiLeaks, insisting they, it's an it, isn't it, are a non-state hostile intelligence service and are plotting to take down America any way they can and find any willing partner to achieve the end. Now, when you listen to that after you heard that the CIA has just done that in Syria and Iraq and Lebanon and who knows all where else, all in history, in Ukraine and everything else, this is, if this wasn't such a war crime, you have to laugh at this insanity, literal insanity. The caucusocracy speaks, folks. WikiLeaks intends to take down America. I had to respond to that. I asked, I think it was in Twitter, actually a response, not asked, but I just made the comment, it's not America. They're trying to take down WikiLeaks is exposing the caucusocracy that came up through the sewer of the government, and now floods the entirety. This is not America. This guy is part of the establishment that wants to hurt people. And they certainly don't like the witness. And isn't the inside the so-called deep state? That's not the state. That's the occupiers. Aren't they the non-state hostile intelligence service? It's funny how they say the same words that they are attacking, but they're the ones that are actually the plotters of it all. Would WikiLeaks even be involved if the CIA hadn't taken down 4 nations? Would this even be an issue if it wasn't for the CIA in the first place? Who denied it? Oh, it's national secret. We can't tell you that we're doing all this. Now it comes out the fact of Trump denying appropriations to the CIA calls it out. Follow the money here, folks, is what the point is. All you have to do is defund this stuff, and all of a sudden what wasn't supposed to be going on can't go on no more. And you know it was. How simple is this that we don't see it? And I'm telling you, so we still have evidence that the caucusocracy rules, and we'll remember this guy Pompeo is pointing a finger at WikiLeaks. Remember, he's got 3 fingers pointing back. This is the insanity that we're living in. And I'm not hearing much about it yet. I'm just calling out the tabs here as I see it, pointing out that is us. Remember, this also, don't ever lose your mind from the idea that the United States is, this whole thing is a setup for protecting Israel. And those people that have called themselves of the state of Israel, which isn't actual, haven't been recognized at all in international law or by the international community, are actually recognized by that community as occupiers. And I would have to say the terrorists that the big uncle represents in them. So, WikiLeaks is being attacked for outing the very thing that the public media now says is something the CIA was doing all along. How do you feel about that, folks? What is that? I mean, as I say that, why don't, wherever my broadcast is posted, wherever there's a comment page, why don't I see you talking back to me there? Because I can't see you during the broadcast much. Why aren't we interacting? Why don't you have problems that you see in my statements or not? Why don't you thumb up? Why don't you bring your contribution? In fact, Vince does that. He'll throw in some stuff he finds and throw it into the comment. Well, why aren't we using this Internet of Things thing to our great benefit? I don't know. Well, we're seeing the truth of the deception. It's been predicted. I'm not at all problematic about where I positioned myself in seeing what was going on all these years. Maybe that's why no one comments up, down, indifferent, whatever. It's just, there's nothing to say to the truth, right? Really? I get that. Be nice to know that they're out there with a thought. I certainly don't like to see the attacks about people. I could care less about them myself. Again, this Israel thing and the Jews and all that. You start focusing on the name calling, forget it. You're useless. You're useless to everybody. Yourself, but more importantly. But here we have this whole setup done as a plan. For I told you the problem is the plan. What did I say? The problem is the plan. And now it's out. And maybe I just don't have the touch. I don't have something. I'm not in the connection stream. I don't, the social media things that I look at just don't have it. But I heard crickets on that. This should have been one of the bombshells. I talk about bombshells? Wow. Why isn't that the bombshell? The bomb, folks. So this administration, I've told you, we just have a very narrow focus for what we wanted to do with the administration. That couldn't happen when the Clinton got in or any of the other guys. But if Trump got in, we had an opportunity. If you've noticed, the things I've talked to you about for what I'm interested in, the public lands, the water definitions, your private property, there's some inroads that are being happened that would have never, ever, ever happened. So when I tell you, we work and trying to work through this situation, That it's not a carte blanche. It's not an endorsement at all, actually. We still have a denial of justice, a constitutional denial of justice going on regarding our lawsuit. So this is not a small matter internationally as well. So I'm not consistently supportive of anything I see this administration doing right now. They're actually going, when they do supposedly right, it's only not even half right. So it makes the illusion like something's going in the right direction without the substance, the ultimate substance of it. And so this is another transparent type of action. It looks like something's going on, but it's not really to fulfill what has to happen. We get, again, I was talking this, we're finding out what transparency means, and I told you it's that they see through them, not that you see what they're doing. This was the misconception. This is that language barrier that the legalists, the opportunists, the occupiers use against you. They don't fool me most of the time, but I think they fool a lot of other people, and I'm kind of amazed at that a bit. I wish you wouldn't be fooled, because it wouldn't be a question of what's going on. That something came on in all this divulging of this. There was also now, I guess, the United States administration's having trouble with their what's it called, handling of the media. They're having some difficulty in how they promote themselves and their agendas through the media. So they made a policy decision to change out somebody in the press corps or whatever. I'm not really too much into it. I didn't show it, but what fell out of this was this guy was it Spicer was the publications guy? He resigned, and because Trump put Anthony Scaramucci in to that press corps, who now rises into Spicer's place, and at the time he's now, this Scaramucci is put into the place, the media, he goes back and says this: full transparency, not your digestive tract, the two dots, one above the other. Full transparency. I'm deleting old tweets. Past views evolve and shouldn't be a distraction. I serve at POTUS agenda, and that's all that matters. Now, there was a lot of response to all that. I wanted to point out something, that most of the responses to that were, wait a minute, if it's transparent, why are you deleting your old tweets? Well, it was actually the first people were coming in and saying, well, you didn't delete anything. I got images. So I don't know where all these people get the time to follow all these people to get the copies of the images of these tweets, but there's people that do that, which is kind of fun. He can't delete these old tweets, but the point was, people were amazed that transparent meant deletion. I wanted to call your attention to this is the same thing. Transparently, the CIA was right in our face, invading and destroying other nations, and everybody's cool with it. This guy comes in and tells you that he's becoming the same thing, transparent the same way, by deleting all the facts and the evidence and his positions and just getting rid of it. All that's now transparent, because you can't see it, so he says and thinks, is the model of how these guys work, and people don't understand it. They want you to see through, past, not see through to them, see past what they've done and what they'll do. And just the response by Twitter was just a joke. This is all in a way, it's a long, ongoing chuckle and joke for me. In one regard, it's just completely an ongoing. It is a piece of entertainment, but because of the subject matter, this is deadly, deadly, deadly serious stuff. And that's the only thing that calls my attention back to it. The transparency they want. Obama wanted to be transparent. Even today, they want to be transparent. You think, oh, we want to see you're going to show us everything that you do. No, they're going to cover things over, and they have all the tools to do it. And so, I guess here, this was, the response to this full transparency tweet showed me there's a mass ignorance that rests in the populace that needs to be corrected. And until this stuff is corrected, and you start looking at the world more, not like me, but I mean more in the context of being able to identify it like I've instructed you should, through this consensus-based policy, which sounds like it's strictly administrative, but in a way it is, that the whole world seems to operate on these bureaucrats, right? I mean, this is the CIA chief is executive administrative, Pentagon, that's administrative, executive, right? So, this is all administrative stuff. And they work through consensus. That's a felony. They work through dispute resolution. They work through state secrets, as we found out last week in Solomon's contribution, to start to wrap up the bow a little tighter around national security. And so here we have complete transparency. The Internet of Things is the Internet of Battlefield of Things, and I'm telling you, that's your U.S. cities. That's right where you live. It's not in a place that's out in the desert without power and infrastructure. That's in a place where they can put all these devices in to keep and monitor you, which means that's what they're doing, folks. I hope you picked that up. That's what this is all about. And then they're going to get you to tout it all on yourself. And you'll do it. Just like you put that thing, those few that are taking that ring just to get junk food, or that piece of rice in their hand to get junk food. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine that. But that's what's happening. That's reality. And the lesser of you that won't are just going to be highlighting yourself. That's the anti-anonymity problem that I was telling you. I started to learn why Tor works, is because they try to make you look like the herd. You don't try to not look like the herd, you try to look like the herd. Well, the more of you making the decisions that are not like the herd, the more you stick out like a sore thumb, and they chop that off pretty quickly. As I realized a long time ago when they started putting these detectors in the highway, why are they putting detectors in the highway? This is a long time ago. And then as I started learning things, I said, oh, that's interesting. That's how they can tell where they're using this, and this information's going back and being transmitted to a place, and then they attach cameras, and oh, this is kind of interesting. And then I realized as I learned more about how the commercial nature of this regulation authority was, I also realized the control nature, and I said, well, you know what? For all I was thinking about having a device, a machine, that didn't send out signals or didn't have the codes and wasn't tied to the system, I realized if I went over one of those sensors and didn't send out a proper signal, they would find me. And that was a whole nother new awareness of how you actually have to run through the battlefield. And this dynamic works in a lot of areas. And that's why I told you, sometimes I wonder if I knew now what I know, if it wouldn't be better if I didn't have some of the things I don't have regarding state certifications, permissions. Because I know now that within that structure I can defeat it from inside. A lot of you don't believe that, but that's okay. That not having it now makes me, and anyone who is cut out of the herd, makes you vulnerable to those that have the technology to seek you out. And so we have this CIA Internet of Battlefield of Things. It is your cities. We know, and we see the CIA is lying, and the government will lie, and you find out how to truncate that, and it is by to pull its funding, and then it rises to the top of something it was doing that they were paying for. We find out that they'll even pay people wages to do this. This is fascinating. And they find the type of people that'll do it. And they do find the people that will do it. And they're pretty slick about how they get you to buy in, but you buy in. This is the local problem. The buy-in, the public buy-in is what they want. And so they don't want to hide this, make this battlefield of your cities, this battlefield of things is your cities. Remember smart cities? There it is. They're telling you. We don't see it that way, but that's what it is. U.S. cities on alert for vehicles as weapons of terrorism. Now you see the reflection coming over the United States. Now we're going to have these car bombs. Well, they're telling you what the United States military, whether it's your police force or whomever, is going to start doing. Now, when you find out the CIA has been doing this to disrupt your democratic societies, and they make color revolutions, so-called, these social justice revolutions, these rainbow revolutions, about what color the revolutions, the government goes down. And now they're telling you that they're coming to warn you that they're alerting you about vehicles as weapons, and they're the ones in the Middle East that have been doing that through their proxies. Don't you think this is telling us the United States government's coming home now because it's lost the war over there, obviously and clearly. Its plan failed. It's going to turn it needs to expend its energies somewhere. Heck, the good faith and the full faith of the government is perpetual, folks, right? That's on you. That's how they pay for this. The United States is telling you these vehicles are going to be weapons used in your towns. They were the ones paying proxies to do it here. Do you think that they're not doing that here? Do you think maybe the possibility that what's transparent to you is that they've been paying people to set this up and execute it? You think? Maybe? Just maybe, folks. They're going to get you to buy in. They have the infrastructure to make that so. And I don't hear a whole lot of people moving to counter it. And as I look out, I don't know many people do. And I only know what I know, but I think what I've known has been a real unique view, at least for me, and when I look around, it's been a very unique observation. I kind of feel, I don't know how to make it sound, what this will sound like. I feel good about what I've found. I don't like what I've seen, but I feel good about how I went about finding what I see and the comprehensive nature of it. I don't like it, but I'm glad I'm seeing it. I'm glad I wasn't just blinded and I didn't get lost in how much I knew. I think I really see this. Again, it's not what we need to stop it. And my dismay that more people don't get on that board, and surf that tsunami. But, I think I'm seeing pretty clearly. And I think you all see that. I think maybe that's why I don't get many comments. And that's okay, but I'd like to see some action. I guess this is a warning. They're telling us they're planning to do what they paid other people elsewhere to do, and I think they're coming home. I told you this before, and this is more solemn, folks. This is coming home to roost. This is the plan. The problem is the plan. And they've agreed that they were doing it, the CIA, the government was doing it. It doesn't matter to me who, not the who, not the owl, not the rock, not even the World Health Organization, but the whomever, actually in federal law, the whomever is the government employees. Whomever, it's not you. You think it's you, but when whomever does a conduct illegal, it's not you, it's whomever. It's in the government. Pretty fascinating. That corporate public, whomever. Now, you won't get that justice, but that's what it is. That they're telling you, and they're making up a whole bunch of things about these cars. We've been hearing a rash of UK attacks with cars and knives and all kinds of things. Yeah, folks, they just told us the CIA planned the whole Middle East. You don't think they're not coming home. I want you to really reconsider that thought, and maybe the more brilliant of you that can really come and become effortful, please, folks, become effortful against this stuff. Throw in and let us know. Let us know what we might do more than what I talk to or whatever. And again, I keep talking about the military consequence. I say you live in an occupied country, you live under military rule. Everyone wants to look for the proclamation ending instead of just looking out and seeing all you folks are dying on the streets. You're in a battlefield, America. They're now bringing the car bombs to you. I told you all about this. And then I told you that, again, the commanders you live under the district commander, whomever that is, and that could be the judge in your local area, but that's also the bar, which is another occupier. But he may be also being told so that the courts don't look like a military court, but they are. So everyone that says, these are admiralty courts or whatever kind of court, you could be lying as well because you don't know. These are actually to look like whatever they have to look like in order to keep you thinking there's something that they're not, which is controlled by a military consequence. I've talked to you all about this when I was reading Libra Code. They can put a facade on your society and they will order it to death, folks, if you don't quite get this. The pressure on these people, as officials, is the first threat is that you get legally affected, but the real threat is that they'll harm you physically, take you out. And if you don't keep the facade and hide the fact that you're under a military consequence, bad things will happen to you. And so I've told you that there's a duality of liability. The soldier, the police, the government official has a different liability consequence than you will, being the occupied people. The soldiers have a different schedule, a different rate, not a different, you see it where they don't get penalized quite nearly as what they should, or you think you ought to see for accountability. But if we didn't know before, because we saw that disparaging accountability, it's coming more public, and a real little report came up here just to kind of highlight that a little bit. Now, they call them police specialty courts. These are just military. You don't know. You can't tell from the facade what's behind it and driving it. You don't know the man behind this current. It might be a commandant. And anybody who outs that is dead. Is pretty much how that works. Talk about national security at work. Police specialty courts will let officers avoid prosecution was a story that popped up. According to an article in the Texas Tribune, beginning September 1st, 2017, first responders can avoid prosecution by having, quote, first responder specialty courts hear their cases. Public safety employee means a peace officer, firefighter, detention officer, county jailer, and emergency medical services employee. Quote, Texas police officers and other first responders who have job-related mental health issues can soon be diverted into pretrial treatment programs if they commit a crime. What have I told you, folks? That the Supreme I advanced it, but then the Supreme Court came and said and confirmed it for me. If I didn't know better, I told you that the cops are you're too smart to be a cop, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, you're too smart to be a cop, and they did 3 cases, I think it was. And then they came out and said you can be too psychologically stable to be a cop. And those of you that listen to me for a while, you'll know I've said that over and over. This is exactly what that says if you'd ever heard it behind a woodshed. That they have people that can say that they have mental health issues or do, and they can't be held culpable. And they'll have their own specialty court. To me, it was just the military consequence speaking to you in Texas. You free people in Texas. You seceders of the Union if you want to. I don't think so. A lot of hype here. A lot of noise. A lot of nothing's going to happen. What they're doing is building the cage, and they're building the dual system. And here's the first evidence of that. And I find it interesting it starts September 1st. Again, this September time is going to be an interest. I don't even know the news that's coming up to it. Remember, we talked about it last week in the Protestant treaty with the Vatican, with the different types of things that we heard coming down. I don't remember them all. My mind doesn't work as this perfect memory. It just works on remembering there's things coming and where they are and how to find them when I need to. That we know things were coming down here in September. How this kind of rolls in, I know this is probably just coincidental. But to me, it has a meaning. It has a coincidence that has this meaning to continue to confirm you live in a internet of battlefield things, and it's their intelligence structure and their mesh structure, their matrix. And they are now coming out to be not bashful about how they hide how that's going to work. They know they're having a problem with you thinking that the courts are just and equal, and you're not seeing it. So they have to make this specialty court, is all I can point out to you. It's like what happened inadvertently helping a friend in a mandatory arbitration case back in the 90s. And we were able to prove that the imposed mandatory arbitration was unlawful. Mandatory arbitration happens to be the program they're using now as imposed upon property owners called consensus. Arbitration is dispute resolution. That was the program they tried to put in the judiciary, the case I was helping on, it was found to be unlawful in the judicial branch. So they brought it over to the administrative side. And now it's still unlawful, but no one knows as much to do this, to challenge it. So they're putting this into the administrative context, and they're showing a distinction. Specialty courts. You're not equal, folks, if you didn't get that part. You get special influence. There's special protections going on, and they're not going to tell you, and then you can find out how, and we found out part of it is follow the money and stop the flow. What did we sue in our lawsuit in 2013, Jefferson Mining District? But not upon the moratorium of the miners in the first instance for the mining in the rivers. It was upon the SB 839. It was where the money went to pay for all this interference and felony against not just the miners, but the farmers and the ranchers and the water appropriators. It was the money we went after. We didn't go after the money. We went to enjoin it from paying to interfere with y'all. And now it extends to y'all because it went through the federal agencies by collateral attack. It was an equitable remedy, an injunction. The collateral attack is whoever aids and abets that is enjoined as well. That included the federal agencies at their grant stream funding. And here I just said a whole lot right there, and I hope you guys keep listening to pick the notes up because this is exposing one of the trails. It was again to follow the money. You want to stop something, stop funding it. And if you want to find out whether or not it's working and they don't want to tell you, stop funding what you think is there. Now, you're going to find resistance, but that's the battle. That's what's going on. That's how they've taken us out. And so we don't know. They're going to lie to us about the CIA's actions. They call it national security. I call it war crimes. It's the cover for war crimes. I keep telling you, challenge that it's national security at all. What they're actually doing is putting the national security at jeopardy, what they're doing. And we see that when we see that story about the U.S. cities now are threatened because these people have to cover their tail. So we see this big monstrous deception. We can find the players. Who's the underlying deception? Who's the underlying cover for? But nothing other than Israel as well. And so we've heard this problem with Syria. Now the United States admits it has a program to take out Assad, and we're not going to pay for the people that are fighting him anymore. No, I don't know if I really agree that that's going to happen. We still didn't pull out the bases anywhere and get the soldiers out. And there's still a big lie going on there. This isn't over. This is just a change in tactics. The United States lost its all of its advantage. The CIA again lost. How many times are we going to choose a loser? What we need to do is go to the CIA and shock it with the right frequency and get it effortful in the right direction, I suppose, folks. But Netanyahu pops up where Russia is trying to do its things with Syria and try to stop this whole nonsense over there for whatever geopolitical reason. It seems like a whole lot better than watching people die and murder them for lies. Netanyahu opposes the U.S.-Russia-South Syria ceasefire deal. Why, folks? Why would you stop a ceasefire? Who is Israel anyway? Who is this pipsqueak? It's not even a state. They call themselves one, but it's not. It's not even Jews. It's another political structure that's gotten support from Uncle Sam. Now, why this pipsqueak pops up, war criminal in my mind, pops up to say, oh, I oppose the U.S.-Russia-South Syria ceasefire deal, I don't understand. But here this guy is. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made clear today that he and his government oppose the ongoing ceasefire in southern Syria, a deal negotiated between the United States and Russia and which has continued to hold throughout the past week. This is, folks, before we found out the CIA actually did go in and did what they're blaming Russia to have done. Interfered with the democratic processes of another country. And this guy don't want ceasefire. These people, these are war-mongering people. Whoever these people are in Israel that profess to be the state. I can't believe that they're religious people, folks. Unless they want to agree that they're aligned with the Catholic Church. Oops, well, maybe we got to reconsider. Maybe I should reconsider that. Anyway, let's go to the political side. Who is this non-state, non-actor, non-recognized whoever? If he was a state, if he was a nation, would be a war criminal. See, this is the thing. You can't even name these people war criminals, technically. They're not an actual state. Who are they to oppose the United States and Russia deal? Two sovereigns. The problem is the plan. And this is the boil on our national butt, as far as I can tell. Who are these people? And why do they have any force and effect? And why aren't they told and put in their place until, I'm not saying they can't, I'm saying until the proper international protocols are complied with and conformed to allow them the standing that they are without, act without, but claim the powers that they might be or have that hurt people. Has been something stuck in my craw for a long time. Like, I don't get into the Jews done it stuff. I really don't. That's just titling a bunch of stuff. I get into the function and condition. And if we're to look out in the world and international law means anything so that we don't just drop all our guards like the United States did to go extrajudicial and just make the whole world its enemy for its purposes. It's just a thug. Just a war criminal, warring criminal. And then we find out they're doing it transparently at the behest and for Israel. I start to have a real problem with that. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you want to classify yourself as. You're a criminal. And this Netanyahu pops up right away and starts to make place for themselves. At the same time, they're denying essentially apartheid and genocide on the Gazan people and have forced the people of Gaza from their Palestine land into a little bitty prison. And this guy, Netanyahu, has the audacity, and they're going to get away with it. Why? Because they are effortful, folks. If I can keep bringing this theme, maybe that's the title of this one. They are effortful. They will move the biggest domination out of their way because they're effortful. They're focused. And this is one thing I would have to admire. If I have something to admire, it's this. This little pipsqueak in the nation, not even an identity yet, has enough effortfulness that they are actually controlling the globe. That Netanyahu goes in right after this and tells the European leaders concern for Palestinian rights is crazy. Now, I've told you that the transparent part of that is that he is taking on the authority, and it's what's transparent to you is that he doesn't have the authority to actually say that. He is an imposition, known as an occupier, that took a bunch of people in their land, the Palestinian land, as Palestinians, that's why they're called that, Semites as well, so we have a mishmash of terms here. For the most part, these people claiming anti-Semitic attack and harm aren't Semites. I mean, they aren't able to claim the Semite class to be somebody against, because it's a political statement, it's a political organization. The people in Semites included the Palestinians and other Arabs. And this is a transparent fact that seems to go through to cause harms that the CIA is ignoring and the United States ignores that they're promoting. But in private remarks to the leaders of Hungary, the Czech Republic, Poland, and Slovakia, and that were accidentally broadcast to members of the Israeli media outside the room, Netanyahu was overheard calling it crazy for the EU to insist that Israel honor Article 2 of an association agreement signed in 1995, which makes trade with the bloc conditional on Israel's respect for human rights and democratic principles. Now, I won't go on, and I won't analyze that statement for its failures, but even so, given that people think it's a good human rights and democratic principles and Israel has to honor, they think it's crazy they have to honor that. They think it's crazy that they have to agree to agreements like any other nation. They think it's crazy to become consistent with other nations. They don't find a problem with them complaining that Assad will gas his own people, even though Assad has nothing to do with that. They have no problem with aiding ISUS, the rebels that are paid for by the CIA program to go invade another country. They have no problem with this. They don't want the ceasefire, which would aid in stopping them from invading that country, Syria. They certainly don't want to agree to become subject to any nuclear treaty that they deny they would have to be because they deny nuclear weapons. But here is a Twitter that you'll get. I've had to put up, and I watched this thing on my tabs. It just sits here because I just am just astounded that this information's out and no one responds to it. Well, we definitely want to ease Israel's understandable fear. Losing its nuclear monopoly was what Myth Serene put out in a Twitter a long time back. And she'll show you the image, and you can read for yourself that it's known that Israel is a nuclear power without even being a nation. Now, you think that maybe they don't want to be part of this because they want to be outside of that system? The same thing, that's a jurisdictional statement that they're making here. But these people are set up to kill other people. And they have all the justification reasons why they should do so. And they really have no standing at all at this point that I can see. And yet CIA has done their plan to aid these criminals. Because they can't be called, I can't see how they're war criminals given they have no actual state and no nation. They claim one, but it doesn't actually exist. It's the fiction they want you to say. It's an insanity they want you to believe. And they can get you to buy into it, and they have. They have a lot of people in the government of the United States buying into that. or else, folks. And we have evidence of that. U.S. lawmakers support a bill that would make it illegal to boycott goods and services from Israel. The Congress of the United States, to the tune of 45 senators and 237 congressmen, will criminalize the boycott of goods and services from the state of Israel. It's not a state, folks. But this has been recognized by a power, and so there it is in international law. It is thus and so. That people in the United States government, 45 senators at this point and 237 congressmen, are looking to make it a felony and major fine, $1 million I think it was, to boycott goods and services from Israel. Now, obviously, we got a First Amendment problem. The point is, these people are not bashful to do that. We have an insanity, a caucustocracy that's risen up in the Congress. It runs the place. If you don't think that Israel, this little pipsqueak over there, causing all the trouble and all the CIA plans are made to advance the agendas for, aren't the control of the very one that they're making the plans for. I remind you of Cynthia McKinney, who comes up within these last few days to remind us that co-sponsors in the United States Congress suspended the United States Constitution, signed the Israel First Pledge, who, here's the senators, was her post, and I go back and she reminded me that she had made a statement on YouTube regarding, and it's posted on YouTube, regarding this condition where Israel has gotten all your executive, all your so-called your representatives to pledge support to Israel. You think maybe that's why they want to make it a crime? But what's the underlying point here? They're doing it because they're actually getting bribed. And so here's your money connection. Probably the most powerful crime that you'll find in the statutes is when you can tie money to a political office. I'm hoping I don't hear crickets on how this works. This is a direct affront to your Constitution if you thought it worked. I kind of don't think that it's in play until we get enough people understanding how to argue it, not just that there is, but how you go about to defend that, how you go about exposing it and capturing up all that would cause evasions to it while you run the process, because you don't know, you don't have control of the final say. You have to regain that and understand how that works. I'd like to play for you a bit of a statement from Cynthia McKinney so you hear it for yourself, and I hope this all works on the audio level. And she tells you what happened to her when she was, I think, a congressman or representative.
What I was doing was servicing the needs of my constituents. And I was not allowed to do that because I did not toe the line on U.S. policy for Israel.
What line is that they wanted? Were you told directly that you had to toe a line, or explain that to me?
Well, every candidate for Congress at that time had a pledge. They were given a pledge to sign. And I was new on the scene. And so the pledge had Jerusalem as the capital city, the military superiority of Israel.
American Congress people have to sign this pledge.
Yes. You sign the pledge. If you don't sign the pledge, you don't get money. So, for example, it was almost like water torture for me. My parents observed this. I would get a call, and the person on the other end of the phone would say, I want to do a fundraiser for you. And then we would get into the planning. I would get really excited because, of course, you have to have money in order to run a campaign. And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the planning, they would say, did you sign the pledge? And then I would say, no, I didn't sign the pledge. And then my fundraiser would go kaput.
And I'll have a link for that so you can hear more of it. There's a 9-10 minute broadcast that she's doing an interview. And so here we are, silently, we're transparently bribed through the back-end means, is pretty clearly what she experienced. I'm going to take her word for it. I found her to be a pretty upstanding woman. I just leave it. What she produces seems to be pretty straight up. I'll let you all make that decision. But so here's the connection of someone who was on the inside. You notice she's no longer a representative. And then the campaign went out that said that she was insane or whatever, anti-government, whatever they called her. I don't even follow it. I just know that it happened to her, and she's not representing anybody. And her whole point, she just wanted to help her constituents, which is what you think that the government was about. So she went in innocently and found out what the real scam is. And if I got this question right from Sock Puppet, as I looked over, restating this, let me just put the second paragraph in the report if this answers your question. If American citizens, this is what the law will do, happen to defy this law, if approved, they will be fined a minimum of $250,000 and a maximum of $1 million, plus 20 years in prison, designated for a person's, quote, engaged in interstate or foreign commerce, close quote. And so, that's what's being proposed. I'll say, you're doing anything on the internet, that's in interstate commerce. So there you go. And that's how they've been doing it. I've been trying to tell you about this and warn how they're going to connect this up. I hope that answers your inquiry about that. And so I answered when I found out about this problem with the lawmakers and Cynthia's recognition of the things she had experienced, and I found the video that she states that. So I know that she in fact does state it, as she repeated was the fact here just on the 20th. I said, reproving the bribe as a question, and I give the link that you can get in the broadcaster eventually. Every candidate for Congress signed the pledge, or you don't get money, was her quote from that, essentially in paraphrase. That this is to support this non-state, this group of people that are professing to be a state that are committing heinous acts and crimes against people. And I want to just point out again, the CIA may have denied it all these years that they had a plan, but we just were shown and told the CIA plans to destroy other companies and governments, and you know they haven't been attacking Israel either. So there must be some kind of an alliance. If you are still trying to scrape out and try to scrape along to maybe not, how do you know Israel's involved here? Folks, stop denying the problem. And if I didn't need more information about how she was treated and how it happened, and we had other examples, I'm not going to go through the lineage that everyone else can find as well. Interesting, in the day before, she tweets out that remind us what she found about the Congress when she was in. The price of criticizing Israel is an article that comes up. Found it very insightful again, and who we have involved here is John Pilger. We've had comments from him and articles I've read from him on the broadcast. And I'll just start this one off just to let this out a bit. I thought the article was pretty straight up. Again, exposing this problem. There's a price for criticizing Israel. Why? Why would there be the price? Even Russia has to pay a price against the United States. Why wouldn't America be able to put a price on Israel for violating it? Well, because there's nothing that violates the sentiment of a bunch of bribed congressmen and senators, is there? Israel is well known for having a potent U.S. lobby that not only influences Congress and the mainstream media, but intimidates Americans who dare criticize its policies towards the Palestinians, as Dennis J. Bernstein describes, and this is his article, and I'll read just a couple bits, and this is a discussion with John Pilger. I'd love to have you I'd like to have you read it when you get it or find it or read it from the broadcaster. I'll just start it out a couple of points here. There are very few journalists in the United States or Europe who have the courage to report fairly on Israel's seemingly endless illegal occupation of Palestinian lands. This is written by Dennis J. Bernstein, or Bernstein. I think that is ethnically appropriate to recognize. Personally, as a Jewish American, he says, and the grandson of a revered rabbi, I have been roundly denounced by pro-Israel representatives of their Zionist lobbyists in the United States. I've stopped counting the number of vicious personal attacks that have labeled me a self-hating Jewish anti-Semite. Here's one that got my attention and the attention of journalist Robert Fisk of The Independent of London, who I introduced one night for a lecture in Berkeley, California, and who then wrote an article about the plight of Jewish journalists and activists in the United States who dare to write or speak honestly about Israel's brutal and illegal occupation of the Palestinians. That's the setup. It's not only me, folks. There's other people that are probably more versed. I know John Pilger's been there at the country. I never have. I don't have that experience. I wish when I was coming out into high school, my plans were to go around the world. I had figured out how I was going to do it, but the best laid plans, folks. I didn't get to go visit the world and see their people and understand them. But here's some people that have. We hear the problem. This story goes on and on and on, exposing more and more things that we should not be okay with when we see representatives that come right up after seeing there's also evidence that they're bribed, that they actually are selling you out, and they're selling out things that have been already sold out, but that give us notice that it's not our opinion or some conspiracy, that there's a theory of the conspiracy. There's a conspiracy against you and your rights and your interests in favor of a special interest group. Remember, they're just a group of special interest people at this point. Whatever their origins and their titles and wherever they come from, we call them the so-called State of Israel, these Zionist political side. They call themselves Jews. I don't think any of it. They're just a bunch of people in a concerted effort. And they have gotten people bribed. And your government is in league with that, and probably why you're not seeing all of the accountability that ought to be going on. And so I want to move from the fact that we see the oppression that Israel puts on, a people that should have their own land that was being stolen from them, and then they're forced into an open-air prison called Gaza. That it's now coming up also this week that Palestinians have a legal right to armed struggle. It's as if it's a question, folks. This is international law. Remember we said earlier that it's crazy that Israel, that Netanyahu says Israel's not supposed to follow these things. Israel's a nothing, folks. It doesn't really have anything there to follow anyway, but it also doesn't have actually an authority to act, no matter how organized it is in that land. But Palestinians have a legal right to armed struggle was an interesting statement. That means it's a question, and it ought not be. It's time for Israel, the subtext, substatement, it's time for Israel to accept that as an occupied people, Palestinians have a right to resist in every way possible. I want to remind the United States of America, the Americans so-called, what does our Second Amendment say? Long ago, it was settled the resistance and even armed struggle against colonial occupation forces, not just recognized under international law, but specifically endorsed. In other words, we don't need the Second Amendment, folks. I guess I want to point all this out to you. This is in the people antecedent the government. As we understood as international law, as us amongst ourselves, dealing with ourselves internationally, we started to understand about ourselves as people when we form up into societies. This article goes on, in accordance with international humanitarian law, wars of national liberation have been expressly embraced through the adoption of the Additional Protocol 1 to the Geneva Convention of 1949, as protected and an essential right of occupied people everywhere. Everywhere. I'm talking to you, Americans, in this microcosm of reality, the open-air prison. Everywhere, the occupied people. Folks, I'm telling you, you're occupied. Listen up. Finding evolving vitality in humanitarian law, which I will caution you on, it better not be humanitarian law. It better be more like the rights of men and women, and not this humanitarian nonsense. Notwithstanding that, even in humanitarian consequence, another style of military administrative imposition. For decades, the General Assembly of the United Nations, once described as a collective conscience of the world, has noted the right of peoples of self-determination, independence, and human rights. So you have higher rights than human rights, folks. You do have self-determination and independence. They give you two. Independence is really non-dependence. They give you one, and they throw on the two that are actually encumbrances. And so you got to read very carefully, but here they're telling you, every peoples have these rights. They've been denied to the Palestinians. I'm telling you, you're denying them to yourselves in the United States of America. In relevant part was Section 1974 Resolution 3314 states from, quote, any military occupation, however temporary. I'll tell you, in the United States, it's for however long, folks. Now call this thing a temporary occupation because as soon as you throw it off, it was temporary, however long it lasted. It's funny how these words actually work. In relevant part, the resolution not only went on to affirm the right, quote, to self-determination, freedom, and independence. Oh, that's a little different than they said human rights, isn't it, folks? So they lied in the first part, as I was telling you to be cautious of, and then now they add freedom and independence, whatever freedom means. The range of motion within a constraint of framework, I suppose. Be careful. Self-determination, freedom, and independence, not interdependence, that's what they want to do, that's what the human rights does. Independence of peoples forcibly deprived of that right, particularly peoples under colonial and racist regimes or other forms of alien domination, but noted the right of the occupied to, quote, struggle and seek and receive support in that effort. The term armed struggle was implied without precise definition in the resolution and many other early ones that upheld the right of indigenous persons to evict an occupier. This is a little bit of a contortion, but the point is, everyone has the Second Amendment right to change and abolish the government as they see fit, however they see fit. This is a common right that was known back when the United States was founded, after all the nonsense that we had seen, that is being denied by the United States, how it was formed, and in aid of a non-state called Israel at this point, because it's not recognized anywhere but an occupier. That it was even a question the Palestinians should be able to throw this off was an interesting observation to me, but that why it is Israel keeps bombing those people. Because Israel knows that's the fact, and that's the evidence of their crimes. And it's evidence of the United States crimes as an accessory. And it's worse because now we see the CIA is planning to help that crime. Now, are you understanding, folks? This is all played out for us. It's all played out as a lie, transparent to us. It's called out this week, and I don't really hear the fanfare over how people are supposed to take action, that they can take action, and that anybody who stops them from taking action should be the one set against. And I've told you, because we went extrajudicial, that it's going to be whether or not you can be the biggest and baddest bully, because you have no scruples, you have no law, you have no ethics, you have no morals. And the United States is that big bad bully, and I told you the only people that are going to survive once set against will be those big enough to defend themselves, and a couple of peoples have risen to be that defiance, even though they may not match it still, but they've been enough that the United States hasn't tried to go after them, and that's Russia and China at least. Not supporting either one. I'm just telling you that these are, let's make them all three bullies in the world, all trying to get their piece. And so if you're a lesser bully, or you don't have the protection of Uncle Sam, you're going to be absorbed, or put into complete hell, or worse. Hopefully all those people go to heaven, given there is one that way. Hopefully this is playing out to some greater good, because I don't hear it, folks. I don't see it. This is one of my troubles I see when you get into religiosity. I don't see it. This is the best plan they got? Are you kidding me? And so I think this was, again, the mirror back to us. Palestinians have the right of armed struggle. I'm saying you have the right of armed struggle, but I'm also cautioning you, be careful, because you know you're out-armed. I don't care how many guns you have. You can only carry a few arms and ammunition, and you watch how easily you get to be taken down when an organization is up, organized effort is up against you. And we need to do it better, because if we go to the violent way, we are that revolution that repeats the revolution, and we're going to go violent again. We haven't gotten out of our own way. We're continuing our bad habits. We're a people who allow the deception we just found out was exposed. The CIA done it, folks, and the president knew about it. All presidents have known about it. So what? The people can stand up and fight them, so they have the power, folks, if you would just start to do it. Now I'm talking to you folks that are not having to suffer this oppression. We have a different oppression, but it's not so obvious. So I want to do a couple of quick things on move from how do these nations function, how do people function? Well, how do you really, the bottom line is how do you keep equity between yourselves and trades? And we get to the point, this idea called money. I'm not going to go through the money, just what people are doing and what's going on is a resistance against them. Bank of Italy warns citizens against creating your own currency. I don't even know if I want to read that anymore. There's your answer. Start creating currencies that you can trust. We've talked about this behind Woodshed a long time ago. Unit money and all that. Put your mind toward what are you going to do to move a system of trust and confidence into a monetary system that you can? And I'm going to warn you still against the crypto coins at this point, as we hear people keep getting charged with a crime for selling Bitcoin as an exchange. So be careful of those of you that are in it. But more importantly, the problem is that there's a big fluctuation, still a big risk about this Bitcoin stuff. And I've told you I'm not too sure about it. I think the technology is really cool, but it isn't anonymous, and it isn't really all that they've cracked it up to be, and it's a centralized control, even though they promote it as decentralized. Again, it's that Internet of Battlefield things. It's a creature of that. And yet we also see, even though that's promoted, we see make your own, create your own currency. Read that story from Zero Hedge, but I'll have it posted. We've had this. It's not unlawful to do your own trustable medium of exchange. I just say, why do all this? But we should just go back to the silver and gold coin that we had. That's the simplest way to do that. Don't take a lot of time to do this, but if you have to, become creative. But you have to have a trust built in. And it has to be something substantial. Well, when they did this cashless society I've been talking about in India, it's starting to fail already. So be careful and look into the future of how these do-gooder ideas meet reality. Usually not so well. Cashless transactions, a thing of the past in AP. Cashless transactions are becoming a thing of the past. People are reluctant to use cashless facilities, which has made the government's much hyped campaign a failed episode. It goes on to say that people, and it's really the public, the poor public, cannot deal in these things that need that infrastructure that is the Internet and the battlefield of things. Poor people and people that don't have infrastructure can't get into it. So there's a failure right there. It's your notice on how you subvert that problem. I ran into, what do you do with your food? You get this money, this thing you can trade, and you get into food. You got to buy your food. How you trade? The producers have to go and you get a medium that I don't need so much of your dollars, but I need maybe my tractor fix, and you're not the guy that fixed the tractor. I need a medium to move my wealth, my property from you to you, from you to the guy that fixes the plow or the tractor. And there's a first of its kind food sovereignty law just legalized local food trade without government was a big deal. I see all the anarchists waving their flag here, and I'm going to tell you that was the wrong thing. You don't need, if you look at what this report does, and I'm going to probably talk about this maybe next week, they added in social justice and all that. The UN imposition where proud producers of your land already have these rights. You didn't need a law. You just needed to know your rights. And nobody knows what those are. And no one knows how to present them, and no one knows how to defend them. And that's our problem as a people. That's why we're down in the stinking abyss, sliding ever so fastly now. And I think I did, Vince, I did say easily. And thank you very much. I do appreciate it again. Hope you found something today that you found interesting, at least. Even I know it was international, but it reflects you at right where you sit, right in your town. Grimner, thank you again. Appreciate thereallibertymedia.com and all you do in the archives and the audio and everything there, and freedomsnetwork.com social network. Try that, folks. See if we can pull together there. And Jules at ucy.tv. Again, I haven't had much time to talk with you. I hope everything's going great. And all you do there, thank you for the recasts on Thursday, for those of you that are listening, the terrestrial broadcasters. I appreciate what you do there. And all you other working behind the scenes to help me, again, thank you. As I've entered into the broadcast, I appreciate all your contributions. It's just one more thing I don't have to look at, and I can focus on other things while I'm doing what I need to do. And you can find us over at BitChute or at Mind.com. Take care. I'll be here next week. Tech diffs or nature willing. Well, that's another lesson. I hope with today's information you can take it to those that misbehave. From behind the woodshed, leaving his mark on the beast, this is Hal Anthony. Till next time, journey with purpose.
up a can of whoop-ass feels like.
Son, you just opened a whole case of whoop-ass.
Yeah. Check.